Hey guys, Nick here, and welcome to the omniverse of Nick and the finale to What If Dreadwing Joined the Autobots. Before we get into it, be sure to smash the like button, subscribe to the omniverse of Nick, and further acknowledge and support the future of the omniverse by checking out the Discord, Patreon, and both Google Docs on the homepage, as well as commenting future requests and expectations for this year in the comments. With all that said, let's get started. We ended off last time with Predaking essentially defeating all of the Decepticons, being infected with the dark and synthetic energon matter, and getting killed at the cost of Optimus having become Super Optimus, and Cybertron being restored, and Super Optimus, Ultra Magnus, Dreadwing, and Wheeljack going into space, while the others stay behind with absolutely no cons, Predacons, or anything to look after. But, and at the very end, we saw Predaking wake up to Unicron. And this is where we continue. Predaking doesn't understand. How is he alive? And who is this person? And he asks Unicron this. It's like, how am I alive? And who are you? Unicron says that he is the Chaos Bringer, Unicron the Destroyer. And he is not alive. But he can't join the Allspark because his lifeblood flowed through Predaking's veins, even though it was corrupted. And honestly, he would have never expected his energy form to rouse from slumber to come across the likes of this beast. But after what he saw and experienced and the surge of energy, Megatron was absolutely useless, especially using the Dark Energon and falsely being unaware of what power might come back to bite him, which is why he wasn't worthy of Unicron's attention to be his soon-to-be vessel. Predaking just doesn't understand. If Unicron is this so-called Chaos Bringer, and Megatron possessed the lifeblood of him, then how is it that he's speaking to Predaking now if they're both not in the real world? Unicron says that he was cast into the planet that he was originally cast to in the first place, and Optimus Prime rendered his material form dormant inside of Earth with the Matrix of Leadership, with the help of Megatron. But his energy form was roused from slumber when he sensed the awakening of a great ancient rival across the cosmos. Predaking can think this only means one thing: the energy of the core of their planet, Primus. And he thinks that the Autobots and everything, after he lost consciousness and awareness of what happened to him, after he tried to shake off that virus and that dark matter from that Decepticon being, that Silas or that breakdown, what happened after must have resulted in him being able to be defeated by the Autobots. But it must have cost them heavily to some form of way. And now, what's ultimately happened is the planet's been restored, and really, they don't have anything to worry about. And Predaking is just here, and they must have done this after he was destroyed. But Unicron says that he lounges to do what he should have done eons ago. And for that, his anti-spark requires a vessel. But Megatron or anyone else was completely unworthy, considering the lack of care and misuse of his own lifeblood. But once he had sensed and experienced the sensation of this beast, this ancient beast created from another Decepticon back into Ultimate CNA, Predaking, he knew that this was the ultimate way and knows this is the ultimate being that will ensure that he not only gets revenge on the Prime, but destroys everything, not just Cybertron. Predaking says he will not bow to this being just because he's here right now. And even if he does, will he live again? Unicron says that he doesn't get a choice. he will live only to serve him, and that his husk will simply be an instrument at his will, whether he likes it or not, and that he might call himself the king of the beastly warriors of the Predacons, but to him, he's no more than a vessel for the ultimate pathway of destruction. And with that, Unicron uses his powers. And thank you so much, TF Motion Freak, for making this picture, always helping me with my Transformers stories, of Predaking Unicron. So you could basically call him Predacron or Uniking. I actually like Uniking more. You know what? We're gonna call him Uniking because we're gonna add a little bit of smokescreen humor in there. So Uniking gets his full-on beast form, or normal form, and then transforms into dragon form, or actual beast form, and flies 70,000 times more faster than Megatron's superluminal space drive ever could. And within just mere minutes, Predaking or Uniking arrives on Cybertron and detransforms and faces the Autobots, B, Smokescreen, Bulk, RC, and Arachnid, and says, "Minions of the Prime, prepare to be obliterated." The Autobots can't understand it. Who is this beast? They don't even know what this creature is, and that dark aura. But then Arachnid, like before, picks it up. This is the Predacon. Look at the symbol. But he's infected with even more dark matter. But then Unicron says that this Predacon, who so highly thought of himself as a king, owes his new lease on life to me, Unicron. And you are far from being able to even lay a finger on me, let alone deliver the Chaos Bringer into oblivion. And with that, it is absolutely no contest. He doesn't even need Beast. Like, literally, Predaking or Uniking absolutely destroys the Autobots. B is destroyed first. Smokescreen tries to use the phase shifter, but it proves no absolute kind of leeway, and he gets killed instantly as well. Then RC and Arachnid are killed almost simultaneously. And last but not least, Bulkhead, who tries the Apex armor, but the Apex armor is literally broken with a single punch, piercing Bulk straight through the center of the armor and straight through his spark. Meanwhile, in space, the quest for the Allspark is actually gone on easier, since the storm would not be there yet to consume the Allspark. But Uniking, in beast form, has flown with his next target. And his super beastly awareness, Unicron being part of him, and everything allows, Predaking Uniking to get there within minutes after destroying the Autobots. And Magnus and Wheeljack are killed instantly at the same time, and the ship is destroyed within mere seconds. Optimus and Dreadwing face Uniking out in space, but they're absolutely no match for him. And Dreadwing says there's only one way to ensure that, with this beast killing every one of their own besides Ratchet, there's only one way to ensure that no more harm comes to their own planet to restore it, or any planet ever, especially for Ratchet and the humans back on Earth. And Dreadwing just looks at Optimus and says, "Farewell, Prime. Thank you for helping me see the right way." And he shoots over and over again plasma blasters, laser beams, and missiles to distract Uniking for as long as possible. But after getting these blasts deterred away from him, Uniking enables his own variations of the blasters that Megacron used, except, it's not like it's freaking 20,000 times more worse or anything. Yeah, these blasters instantly cancel out every single attack Dreadwing tries to land, and after a decent bit longer and pretty much at the finale of the story, Dreadwing is killed, sacrificing himself right as Optimus finds the opportunity he was looking for and seals Unicron away inside of the Allspark container. And with that, Predaking is also destroyed because, now I know what you're thinking, wouldn't his body still be there? I forgot to mention, he wasn't just taken over, his entire essence, like every single part of him, was completely taken over. Like, this wasn't just taking over his body, this was taking over everything. So it's not just Unicron that gets sealed, Predaking gets sealed too, because of the extra threat that Predaking was in the story, being consumed with Dark Energon, already being a threat for the bots, and coming back and killing every one of their own. Optimus had to. He had to seal both of them. And since the Allspark container is indestructible, it's able to contain all of what makes Unicron and Predaking their beings. So, it literally works out. This was literally the only way to ensure that there would be a win situation here. Optimus just looks at the container. He thinks about Dreadwing. He thinks about his commander and Wheeljack. And then he thinks about every one of his comrades that are dead on Cybertron. And that he'll be going to restore Cybertron alone. And he enables his flight thinking about all of his fallen comrades, knowing that in order to actually restore Cybertron, he has to merge with the planet, but there's no one left to actually take over in his stead and ensure a new breed to fully bring Cybertron to its new age. But then he remembers there is still one left, and Optimus flies and greets Ratchet, who, after hearing every one of their comrades sacrificed and died due to Unicron coming back in the Predacon's body, he's absolutely beside himself. But then he's even more shocked at what Optimus tells him about sacrificing himself and that he's basically one with the Allspark, and says that no, Optimus can't do this. He's literally the only Autobot left, the only Cybertronian in all of history left. Optimus can't leave him, and that he didn't just come here to hear about all of these lives being dead, only to hear about the one friend that he cares about dying too. He'll be all alone. What is he supposed to do? But then he realizes that Optimus would never, ever say all of this to him unless he finally brought it upon himself to really trust him and show that Ratchet is truly worthy of the mantle for being Cybertron's true protector. And that Ratchet and Optimus have been friends for a very, very long time, especially Orion. And that honestly, this fits the bill for what Optimus or Ratchet would do in the other one's place. And that they've both helped each other so many times, this is almost the ultimate way to finally pay that back. But Ratchet says that he doesn't want Optimus to go. He understands why, but is this really the end? He'll be the only Cybertronian left to lead Cybertron into a new age, and that he shouldn't have to do this alone. Optimus says that he's right. He shouldn't have to do this alone. But everybody gave their lives to put them in this situation today. They would not be here if it weren't for all of their comrades, the war, and the fight with the Predacons. And Ratchet truly deserves the title of Prime, even if the Matrix will cease to exist. Cybertron will always remember. Future breeds will always remember that Ratchet was the ultimate one to last through it all, to truly help with it all, to truly show that he rose above just being a medic. He is a true, ultimately honorary and hero to the Autobot and Cybertronian legacy, and says that he might cease to exist too, and all their comrades might be gone, but he tells Ratchet to keep fighting the noblest of fights, and always remember where your heritage and what part of the side you always strove for, to protect peace and protect our home. And with that, Optimus says one final goodbye to his old friend and merges with Cybertron to breathe new life into a new age with Ratchet at the helm and leading a new dawn for Cybertron. So, in the end, Dreadwing's story meant a lot more than you might think. You might think that this is a dark ending, but honestly, it makes Transformers Prime's ending revolutionary to not a sequel, but what could have been a better sequel. We're not going to talk about Robots in Disguise, because I've already touched upon that. But this story wasn't just about Dreadwing's inclusion, his ultimate sacrifice, and his meaning. It was about adding a character I've never touched upon in a what if, getting rid of a what if in the first place, and showing just how influential and amazing Transformers Prime was as a show. And honestly, it gives meaning to Optimus Prime's sacrifice and Ratchet being the only one left. And honestly, this strives to make Ratchet the ultimate key for a new Cybertron. This will not get a sequel because there's no way to do that. But ultimately, I think that this way it ends with Ratchet being the one to revolutionize a new Cybertron, Dreadwing's ultimate sacrifice, Predaking getting included, getting controlled by Unicron, proves that all of you guys could probably agree this story was probably my best so far, Transformers-wise. It makes my Cliff and Skyquake stories, mainly the Skyquake one, look like a joke, and I did so much more with Skyquake in the beginning, but even if Dreadwing was slow to start, I bet you guys can all agree that what happened afterwards is nothing short of a cinematic Transformers masterpiece. And ultimately, it not only got a Predaking fighting Silas what if out of the way in a what if, but it shows that Transformers Prime is one of the best Transformers pieces of media in the entire world. And I bet after this story, almost all of you can fully agree. Thank you, TF Motion, my good friend, for making those few Predaking pictures for me. I would have made more and included the outline, but I was so close to the end and I wanted to make it so epic, dark, and amazing that I ultimately thought that I was going to make Unicron win in this story. But when I really thought true about it, it would have made Dreadwing's sacrifice and build-up in the story pointless. And his powers, his new look into Team Prime, even if Arachnid didn't do much in the long run besides small assistance, even she meant that the group was able to actually get further. Heck, we didn't even have to worry about Project Predacon. And I know what you guys are thinking. How would Optimus be able to merge with Cybertron if Unicron was either digging into Predaking's mind and used, the undead Predacons? Well, I think that even if he had them going, with Predaking as his asset and getting there so much quicker, either they would not be uncovered, maybe, since Predaking had not been back on Cybertron, and he had not been there and everything. Either he wouldn't have the memories and this would prevent Unicron from using it, or Unicron would just assume, with his vast amount of power and no one left on Cybertron, that his Predacon undead army would get to Primus without his help, which would take them longer. So, all of that points toward the fact that even if Optimus remained the only one left before Ratchet was left all by himself, it meant that Optimus's sacrifice meant way more here than any iteration I'll probably ever have him do. And that's saying a freaking lot. Predaking getting added in here and making him part of the Dark Energon and Unicron and everything proves Transformers Prime right in so many ways. If he had gotten infected, if he had gotten controlled, Predaking is not only my favorite character in the Transformers franchise, and Prime included, but he is also, besides Unicron, the freaking strongest character in the entire history. Because he nailed Wheeljack and Magnus and took everything and still almost killed them. Took out Optimus and could have killed him. Took out Megatron and could have killed him. He was so ungodly strong that if he had gotten infected, like Starscream said, or if he had joined Unicron or been controlled by him, the universe would have been done. And the only reason that I didn't have him die here, or anything like that, or, didn't have Unicron win, is because if I did that, like I said, it would have taken away from the fact that this is not about Predaking. This is about Dreadwing and his meaning in the story. And making Unicron win would have taken all away from that. So, with Dreadwing's sacrifice, that gave Optimus the perfect opening. And since Dreadwing had new attributes, ray guns, and freaking epic upgrades, this allowed the perfect opportunity, no matter how strong Unicron was with Predaking. Strength can only get you so far. No matter how strong Predaking is, it's the brain power you also have to think about. So this is ultimately what made Optimus able to sacrifice himself. But all of this has meant that there has been significant loss. Ratchet being the only one left means that even if this is the end, if there was to be a sequel, Ratchet would be the one to revolutionize Cybertron. So it would be like the age of Ratchet, essentially, being the oldest and only living Cybertronian from all the way back when they first had the war. And that's where we end things. I truly hope that you enjoyed this story more than the Skyquake one. I'm not dissing my Skyquake or Cliffjumper stories in any way. If anything, I did way more with the Cliff story than Skyquake. Skyquake, I just added things and did tiny bit more in-depth stuff and detailed a lot more with Skyquake than anyone would probably ever think to do. But with this story, not only did I lay out a freaking epic foundation for Dreadwing, Arachnid, and Predaking, adding him into my what-ifs for the very first time, this is probably the peak of what you're going to see with Predaking for a very, 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 very long time. True, this story focused on Dreadwing very much so, and him joining the group, but since I added Predaking right near the end and featured him and everything, and got a what if out of the way, this means that, along with getting that out of the way, I peaked with Predaking for a long time with these what ifs. But does that mean you'll never see him again, and this is just a one-time tease? Of course not! Predaking's my favorite character, of course I'm going to include him in more what-if content. But I truly hope that you guys enjoyed this story. The next few stories are the last 3 on the now dead list as of this point, which is John Wick Never Retiring, Doc Hudson Never Crashing, and Hitler Living. After that, and by this point, I have been working on The Rock Walking Dead and that whole list. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this story. Maybe it's your favorite Transformers story. I would definitely think so at this point. Either that or it's very close with the Cliffjumper one, at least. Skyquake, a lot of you can argue. I like all my stories, but even I have favorites. Gotta have favorites with my own stuff, you know? But with all that said, I truly hope you guys enjoyed this story and are looking forward to more. Especially after you've seen the whole thing and watched it back. With all that said, stay tuned for the next Transformers story, which will include Sea Spray, after TF Motion has already done his. Or maybe it's still on by the time that this is recording and everything. With all that said, I will see you guys next time, and stay tuned for more omniversal updates on the Omniverse of Nick. 'Cause it's still the middle of this year, and we're just getting started.